Welcome to Checks and Balances. I'm Michael Vincent. This is James Blair, and this week we're joined by Elle Wuthrich, insurance advisor at Lighthouse Wealth, to talk about health insurance.
Okay, we're joined by our favorite insurance advisor here at Lighthouse.
Insurance advisor to the stars.
Yeah. It's kind of like when my granddad said to me that I was his favorite grandson. And I'm like, oh, you're in the grandson. Yeah. Anyway, so Elle, insurance advisor. A lot of people go, oh, insurance, I don't really want to talk about that. I think about it as you got a list of 10 things to do. It's number 10. You do 1 to 9, then fill it back up with more interesting stuff. Tell us, why do you do insurance and what do you do as an insurance advisor?
So I got into the insurance space because I was offered some poor advice when I was trying to get some insurance at the very beginning when I bought a house. So why am I doing it? I am here to save people from bad advice.
Sounds very ominous.
So you don't let people talk to James about a financial plan. No, that's fine. No, yeah, I mean, insurance is one of those things that people don't like talking about. It gets to the bottom of the list, easy to ignore because it's just a cost that goes out the door. James, why are we talking about it? It's boring. How does it fit into a financial plan? Why do I need this?
I know. I start talking to people and they're like, when we're doing their financial plans around insurance and wills, and you can see them start looking out the window, start scrolling through what are the local restaurants. So a financial plan has 3 parts to it. The first part is, what the hell is the plan? Like, where are we going? What are we trying to do? What are the goals we're trying to achieve? Then there's the goals how you grow your wealth. So shares, paying down debt, budgeting, investment property, a whole range of different things, KiwiSaver, the sexy stuff. And then there's the protection piece. Unfortunately, big spoiler, sometimes life doesn't go to plan. Do you have an emergency fund? What is the right structure of your assets? Hey, Mike, I know you've been seeing this girl for 6 weeks and you love her to death, but you might want to think about a relationship agreement. Health insurance, life insurance, income protection, all the boring no offense, Elle, all the boring pieces, but are really important to get right because, and Mike, you know this as well, when it goes wrong, people come to us afterwards and go, can you fix this? And you can't fix it.
Yeah, and we've had some, I think we probably mentioned them before, but some pretty serious cases of there's just nothing we can do. It's sell the house, it's downsize, it's you can't work. You know, one of our clients had an issue with their bowel and stomach. They literally can't go to work, and there is no protection there. And yeah, it gets pretty horrible sometimes.
So Elle, what is health insurance?
So first of all, I want to say that my job is not boring. I find accounting very boring, and I find law very boring. Okay, so I just wanted to defend myself. Exactly. Well, Matt can't do anything to me right now. So, sorry, Matt. So, what is health insurance? Health insurance is there to help you pay for medical bills if you want to jump the queue and you don't want to sit on the public waiting list.
So, why is it a big deal? Like, I mean, there's a public health care system. You know, I pay tax. You know. Doesn't the tax mean that if I need care, I'll get looked after?
I've jumped the queue before.
I mean, mate, it's because you're so well known at the clubs.
I actually have a really good story about that. I'm not going to tell it now, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like people are going to be like, I want to hear the story.
Yeah,
but anyway.
It is quite good.
Yeah, that's quite a tease.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, we do pay our taxes, and you'd expect to get seen very quickly when you're hurt or something like that. But the truth is, with a doctor's shortage, nurses shortage, with COVID, with flu, there has been a huge setback when it comes to having people being seen in the public system. So if you want to get ahead and make sure that you're seeing a specialist very soon, it pays to have private health insurance.
Yep. So coming to that point around COVID and doctor shortages and all these sort of things, and I know we were having a friendly debate, Mike, at breakfast about this and kind of what the benchmark is. The healthcare system's really only going one direction at the moment, and there's a lot of people who work really hard who do a phenomenal job, but there's just not enough of them, right? Which means that queues are getting longer, wait times are getting longer. The comparison I see is probably to the US healthcare system, where, I mean, you know, much bigger population, a lot more going on, but $50,000 to $70,000 to have a baby, having to give credit card details to before jumping in an ambulance. I'm not saying we're going there tomorrow and it's going to get that bad, but the reality is your health is your biggest asset. Unless you're well at the end of the game, your health means that you can earn an income, which can allow you to build assets, create financial freedom. If you don't have that health, if you can't get looked after when something goes wrong, because something will go wrong, it's not good, is it?
No, it isn't. And a lot of people think, yes, the public health system will save me. So if you're in an emergency kind of situation, you will end up in the hospital and you'll be seen. However, there are lots of people out there that have back pain, chronic knee conditions and stuff like that, and they don't get seen straight away. And that's the harsh truth. And they have to pop a lot of pain medication. They have to wait in line to actually get seen and get treated. And it's really sad. And a lot of people have to take time off work. So again, that impacts their income. And if you can imagine being in so much pain, you'd be quite grumpy. So within the household itself, like you don't have a very happy person who's also not earning as much money, and you can see that decline.
Yeah, my wife's uncle had a tumor in his sternum, and it wasn't going to kill him tomorrow, but it was very uncomfortable and he couldn't work. And the wait time for that surgery was about a year, so he couldn't work that whole time because of that tumor. They had to move house and all that kind of stuff. You could imagine the psychological and mental impact as well.
Yeah, okay, I'm definitely not telling my story about jumping the queue in the public health system then.
So Elle, let's jump into it. What exactly is it covering?
Okay, so if you have really good medical insurance, what it'll cover is hospital and surgery, and it also can cover things like diagnostic scans, so ultrasound, CT scans, MRIs, and those things alone can cost thousands of dollars to pay for if you're going to see a specialist.
Yeah, and in the surgery space, right? It's kind of like how long is a piece of string? Surgeries can cost north of $100,000 depending on the length of treatment, how much treatment you need. Cancer is one of those really interesting ones where I bet if you walked down the street and spoke to the average person and was like, do you think if you had cancer you would be well looked after? Most people would say yes. And the answer is you will get care, but if you've been diagnosed and then it takes you months to be seen, I know there was an article recently in the Herald talking about somebody taking 4 months before they got seen for treatment and their cancer got to stage 4, which, that's a broken system where somebody is now not going to get better because they couldn't get care in time.
Yep. And the Breast Cancer Foundation actually released some figures, and they believe back in March, mammograms, there were about 50,000 mammograms that have been pushed back. And it is one of the biggest killers for women aged below 65. So it is very scary that something as simple as a mammogram is hard to get done.
Yeah, coming back to another story, I know someone else that Hannah knows, they've got a lump in their breast and they're going, they need to go get it looked at. It's going to take 4 months to get it looked at, which is pretty scary, and they've had to fork out cash to get it paid for. Let's jump into the other thing I hear all the time, Elle, is, I'm healthy, I don't need health insurance. I've got good family genetics, I don't need health insurance. And then, we'll get to the cost piece in a second. Who needs health insurance?
Well, it's just like me saying, I'm a great driver, so why do I need car insurance, right? I can't predict the future. And the thing is, also, cancer just doesn't discriminate, right? And it doesn't matter. You can have a family that have never had cancer in their family line, and yet all of a sudden, in my case, I've got a niece who had cancer at the age of 13. So you can't predict these things. And what you're wanting to do is protect yourself before any condition arises, right? Because you don't want to have pre-existing conditions excluded out of your medical cover. So the healthier you are, the sooner you should get medical insurance, because then you're completely covered for anything.
Yeah, it's a pretty serious story, and probably links towards kids. And you go, I won't get my kids' health insurance. I know somebody else who was type 1 diabetic and was diagnosed at 7, and they were lucky enough to have health insurance from birth. Yeah. If they got it as an adult, they would have never got it. The complications with that kind of diagnosis are very long. So Yeah, you're right. You never know what's around the corner. So what are you saying? Pretty much everyone should have health insurance?
Absolutely. And if you're young and you think, it's expensive, I think you need to apply a very high excess to keep the premiums down, but it's definitely something you should have quite early on.
Yeah, and if we're looking at, and I know a lot of people will be watching this and thinking, look, inflation's up, my pay packet's not going anywhere, costs are going through the door, you're telling me I've got to have this insurance, this insurance, this insurance, this insurance. Where does this rank on that scale? I
think it really, and this is why you need to see a financial advisor and talk through your priorities, because it varies depending on your income, where you're at in life, your age. So if you can afford it, it is great to have, because what it means is if you get hurt or you're sick, you can get seen straight away. So it's one way of protecting your earning ability. But also, there's income protection, which is, we'll have a chat about that another time, but that's very important because, like you said, your income is your biggest asset.
Yeah, but to your point as well, your health. Elle, I'm just looking at some of the stats we've got in front of us. The government said in March, nearly 36,000 people have been on waiting lists for 4 months for their first appointment with a specialist. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, that's horrendous, and you don't want to be on that list, right? And also there was an article about a 68-year-old man who died while waiting for a triple bypass surgery. Now, again, you'd think if you had a heart condition, that's quite urgent, but in his case, he had to wait. So you don't want to leave it up to someone else to make that decision for you as to when you get seen. So yeah, you need to take that power back and be responsible and have some cover for your own.
Cool. The obvious question is, how much does this cost?
So it really varies depending on your age and your medical conditions. But a 32-year-old male has comprehensive cover. You're looking at about $90 a month, and then that can go all the way down to about $60 a month, and then you can add $30 more to have specialists and tests covered. So that is comprehensive health insurance.
Cool. And what would you say to those who have health insurance but are maybe getting a little bit longer in the tooth and seeing those insurance premiums really start to hockey? Something very common I see when doing investment advice, people going, oh, this is getting too expensive, I'm going to cancel my health insurance. What would you say to them?
So unfortunately, with a lot of insurance, as you get older, it gets more expensive. And I would say try to keep it for as long as possible and really get the maximum out of it. So increase your excess to the maximum possible and try to hold on to it, because unfortunately, you actually need it a lot more as you get older.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up, I'm just going to run through. So GoFundMe, I feel, is like a really good example of how important health insurance is. And unfortunately, everybody knows a story where on a Facebook page or something like that, you've seen somebody you know is really struggling and they need some financial support. Elle, you've got some stats in that space?
Yes. So in 2020, a study found health as being the largest category for the GoFundMe page. And in New Zealand, that's 400 individuals and families who share a story mainly about illness and then injury each year.
That's actually got worse, because that was 2020. Right now, I checked this morning, there's 1,000 pages for health conditions. The other thing that's quite interesting as well, with COVID, there's been a lot of stuff around with the focus on the pandemic. What are all the other health conditions that aren't getting seen with the delays in specialists, people not wanting to go see their doctor? So I think that number will only go up.
I completely agree.
So slightly depressing episode talking about insurances. I know, not the most fun thing to be talking about, but once again, this is a really important part of a financial plan. Everyone thinks they're bulletproof until they're not. So make sure you're having the discussion with yourself and then with with an advisor like Elle, going, what do we want to do? This is our budget. What can we put in place? Something is always better than nothing. So many people go, too expensive. I want to go spend this money on something else. Work out what you can spend and put a plan around it. Thank you very much for joining us. Please make sure to subscribe, give us a review. We'll catch you next week.
Cheers.